Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we're now on the road to 500 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love sports content, sports talk, anything from the NFL to the NBA, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. And I hope you all are having a great Thursday afternoon or whatever time of day it is for you guys, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever. I hope you all are just having a great day. Today we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. The Patriots and supposedly their easy path now in the playoffs, not even just in the regular season when it's the cupcake schedule this, cupcake schedule that, kind of hindering Drake May's MVP. Now their path in the playoffs is easy. So we're going to talk about some of that. The Trae Young trade from a couple of weeks ago, the Bills potentially in some major trouble, and one of the awards, they announced the awards finalists so far for this year's season in the NFL. So we're going to get into all that. But first, let's start off with the Patriots and their quote-unquote easy path now in the playoffs, something that's been hindering Drake May's MVP chances as well as, their schedule. They call him Drake the Schedule May now, which I find funny. I've been talking about it with some friends. They've asked me, and I've just been seeing it all over the media. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about, whether or not the Patriots are really frauds, heading into the AFC Championship and maybe potentially the Super Bowl. We'll know here in a few days. It's crazy. It's already towards the end of the week. We're already heading into the championship weekend. Just seems like we were watching the divisional round a few days ago, which I guess we were, but it just doesn't already seem like it's almost been a week. But yeah, man, the Patriots, I do not think they're frauds at all heading into the AFC Championship. One of the examples I'll give, and I've been giving, people that have been asking me about, are the Patriots really legit? Do you really think it's their schedule? You look in the playoffs now, they're playing Justin Herbert and the Chargers. They're playing like the weakest O-line in the entirety of the NFL, injuries everywhere you look. And, I get that. We'll start off with the Chargers game. I understand about how the Chargers O-line has been decimated by injuries. It's affected them the entire season. I mean, Rashawn Slater ended up getting a season-ending injury before the season even started. Joe Alt is really, what he played, maybe 3-4 games this season. I think he was out to start off the season, or he was in for a couple of weeks, got hurt, came back for like a game or two, then it was out for the rest of the season. He hasn't played much, probably since October or something like that. So they went the majority of the season without Slater and Joe Alt. Their interior offensive line has not been great as it is anyway. They've been dealing with injuries. They traded for Trevor Penning, a former first-round pick from the Saints. I don't even know if he ended up playing when he got there. I don't think he played in the Patriots game, really. So one of the things I say about that, and when I've been telling people, like, oh, well, I didn't really think of it like that. They've had offensive line issues, like I mentioned, since before the season even started. They started off with that hot 3-0 start. They were kicking teams' ass the entirety of the season for the most part. Then they finished 11-6. That's a really good record, especially when you're in a good division. I know the Raiders are picking number 1 overall. The Chiefs fell off towards the end of the season, and the Broncos were the number 1 seed in the NFL. Well, you don't go 11-6 with your O-line being out all season if the other parts of your team are not good. Like the Chargers defense, Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator, it's looking like he's going to be the head coach of the Ravens or somewhere. I mean, he's right now above even Sean McDermott and those guys. It looks like he's the hottest head coaching candidate in the league right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not hired, honestly, by the time I upload this video tonight. I don't know. But he should be hired within the end of the week. So they had him as their defensive coordinator, Jim Harbaugh, who is an elite head coach. I mean, remember the Chargers, they had Herbert, they had prime Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was good this year, but he's not what he was back 3-4 years ago. He's an older player. They just had a lot of talent. Khalil Mack in his younger years, Joey Bosa in his younger years, with Brandon Staley, and they didn't do anything. They ended up finishing like 5-12 most seasons. They went to the playoffs against Jacksonville, and they ended up blowing like a 21-3 lead, 27-3 lead. It was like a Falcons-Patriots kind of thing. If it was a Super Bowl game, I mean, it would be memed all hell, just like the Falcons and Patriots as a decade later. They were still talking about it this season with the Jaguars comeback and stuff like that. So clearly Jim Harbaugh makes a difference. Herbert, even though, he may not perform as well in the playoffs, not even just this year because of the O-line. Last year against Houston, I don't know if you guys remember, that was a disastrous game against the Jags. They blew like a 20-some point lead, so they have that looming over them. But they are a good team. They finished 11-6 and still got there, and they've had O-line injuries the entirety of the year. This isn't something new. This isn't something that popped up a week or two before the season ended, and it was like, oh, they've been great all year. Now all of a sudden, Joe Walt and Rashawn Slater go down at week 16, and it's over. I could maybe understand the argument a little more, like they got lucky, but you know what? You can go back and look at any playoff run. How many teams get lucky? Look at the Chiefs over the last couple of years. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. They were like 11-0 in one-score games. People were saying devil magic this. They got to the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. Eventually their time didn't come where they ended up losing all these games and this and that. They ended up winning the freaking Super Bowl still. I think it was against Philadelphia or San Francisco. I'm like 99% sure it was Philly. But yeah, I don't believe in the easy path to the playoffs. They got there with an injured O-line the entirety of the season. New England's defense has been fantastic. They go against Houston again on Sunday, right? Drake May had, 3-4 fumbles, something like that. He ended up losing like 2 of them. Will Anderson was beating Will Campbell like a drum out there. People are like, is Will Campbell a bust? Are they kind of what he hoped he was? He hasn't been the same as he's come back from injury, but I got a little secret for you. Nobody's good against Will Anderson. It's like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett makes all-pro tackles like Ronnie Stanley look silly out there. He does. Those are what those kind of players do. Will Anderson we thought Micah Parsons got paid back. I think he has like the highest contract in NFL history for an edge rusher or something like that. He's getting paid a ridiculous amount of money. Will Anderson's probably going to top that here in a couple of months or something like that. This offseason, I'm sure he'll top that. He's going to get an absolute bag this offseason. It is what it is. And here's the thing of what I said with New England and Houston. C.J. Stroud had a ton of turnovers, but you know what? He was in that game for the most part for a majority of the game. In the fourth quarter, it was still like a one-possession game at the start of it. And even like really midway through it, the Patriots ended up scoring another touchdown. Then it ended up kind of being like a 3 touchdown lead or something like that. It felt over at that point because Houston had no life on offense. But I blame a lot of that on C.J. Stroud because you look at Drake May, he's out there. He had a bunch of fumbles out there. He's just getting the shit beat out of him back there. Can't feel your hands in freezing cold weather. I think it was like 18 degrees or something out there, pouring down snow for a majority of the game. And yet, he ends up still throwing 3 touchdowns on that Houston defense, which is, really been seen as like Christ came to earth kind of thing. Like people praise that defense, and respectfully so. I've been saying all year, Houston's defense really, to me, was the best defense of the league. If they had any sort of competent offense, I'd say I don't know any team that would beat them right now in this playoff run, but their offense stinks. Their offensive line, I've been saying all year, has been terrible. They have one of the worst units in the league. They traded away Laramie Tunsil, which I don't think it's enough flack. I think Caserio is a good general manager, but I still don't think trading away Laramie Tunsil was the right move because you went into the draft this year and you drafted your first 2 or 3 picks were all receivers. You didn't even look to replace the O-line. It's like you kind of went in here with Trent Brown, who was with New England for years, and Trent Brown has been known for being lazy, injury prone, not really. He's made a lot of money in his career, and honestly, he doesn't give all of his effort out there on the field. That's been reports out there for years now with that. In his later days in New England, I forget where he went after the Patriots, but I know he's on Houston now. Actually, I think he might have just went right to Houston from the Patriots, but they didn't fix the O-line. And C.J. Stroud, like I was mentioning earlier on, he had multiple chances in that game to go out there and turn the game around. Go out there, throw touchdowns, get them back in, stop turning the ball over. But the thing is with a lot of those, the Marcus Jones pick 6, what was his name? Kayvon Chason was just all up in his grill. Maybe he should have threw the ball away, but it was like that. He looks over and Chason's just literally taking him down to the ground, throws it up for grabs, and Marcus Jones gets it and takes it for a pick 6. The Carlton Davis interception. It's just poorly thrown footballs. I mean, the entirety of the game, he's missing guys open. I mean, even if it was an interception, or a fumble or a turnover or whatever. He was just missing guys left and right all over the field. A lot of Houston's momentum on offense was kind of ticky-tack pass interference calls. And you can date that back to a lot of games, not even just Houston. Teams do that all the time. New England's done it this year. Every team in the NFL's done it to where they're just kind of chucking it down the field, hoping to get an interference and have the receiver play, play a role in a movie and try and get a flag. Act it out, do whatever you got to do to get that flag. Sometimes it's you do it and you get away with it. And Houston did it a couple times that game. I'm not even necessarily complaining about it. That's on the refs calling it. Houston did it. They got it. But New England, they came out. Their defense played fantastic. They've been playing great in these playoffs. I mean, hell, you see what they did to Justin Herbert. I know their offensive line wasn't great. I just talked about it. But their pass rush was destroying them. And not even just that. When Herbert had time to throw the ball, there was nothing there. I mean, they couldn't run the ball on New England. They couldn't throw the ball on them all year. And not all year, but all game. And here's the thing with the Patriots all year. The first 9-10 weeks of the season, I think up till after the Tampa Bay game at like week 8, week 9, week 10 or something like that, right around that range, they didn't let up a 50-yard rusher the entirety of the season. 50 yards. And they played Bijan. They played Genti. They played Devon Achane. I mean, they played elite backs for that stretch. Their run defense, when they had Milton Williams healthy, which now they do, he's made a serious impact in the playoffs. Christian Barmore, guys like Tonga. You have Chason, who's been amazing off the edge. He's having a career year. Harold Landry's kind of slowed down, but he's still an impact player. He may not be what he was on Tennessee a few years ago. He's still a good player, though. He's more of a pass rusher than a run stopper. But those guys up the middle for New England, they're great. They have good tackling linebackers, Gonzalez, Davis. I'd say one of, if not the best cornerback duo in the NFL. You look at the New England roster, and people say, oh, well, their schedule, this and that. You look at their roster, May is a top 2 to 3 quarterback in the NFL. He could very well win MVP in a year and a few weeks coming up. Their defensive line, as I mentioned, now it's back to that form now that Milton Williams is back healthy. He missed 5 to 6 weeks with an injury after the Giants game, I believe it was. Or I think it was the Jets game he went down in the first time they played them. And when they got him back, they got Will Campbell back, who hasn't necessarily been playing great since he's come back. He let up some, again, big-time plays to Will Anderson, but who doesn't, right? You look at their roster, they just don't have they don't have any holes. Maybe not the best receiving crew in the league, but they're far from the worst receiving crew in the league. Reminds me of those old Patriot teams that go out there. They're not necessarily out there rolling the 07 Randy Moss team and I know Gronk wasn't playing in 07, but they don't have Gronk paired up next to Moss and Wes Welker and all, this and that, whatever. And Gronk and Aaron Hernandez out there, like they don't have that. But for a lot of those later Patriot years and 14 when they won the Super Bowl against Seattle, 18 against the Rams, they were out there. They were rolling out an old Gronk and old Julian Edelman, who retired a few years later. Same thing with Gronk. They don't have any holes. Good defense, great coaching. Vrabel's really just kind of a younger player, more player-friendly Belichick. Josh McDaniels, who was back in those Patriot teams before when they had no holes. They may not necessarily be the most talented team in the league, but they just get it done. They're obviously amazingly coached. Mike Vrabel may end up winning Coach of the Year for all we know. They're 16-3 right now. I don't believe that the easy path in the playoffs thing really, I don't believe it. You play who's on your schedule. I know now it's like, oh, well, they're getting so bailed out now playing Jarrett Stidham. I've watched Jarrett Stidham play. He may be, what is he, 1-3 as a starter? He's still a competent quarterback. Looking around the rest of Denver's team. Bo Nix, there was a stretch there throughout the season where they were talking about potentially benching Bo Nix for Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if you guys remember that. There was like a 4 or 5 week stretch where Bo Nix was one of, if not the worst quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he was with the J.J. McCarthy's. They were still winning games. And that's the thing where I say Denver still has a legitimate chance to win this thing. This isn't a runaway game for New England at all. It's like, oh, well, they're out there sticking in, so-and-so, and it's just this guy's never played a snap in the NFL. Like, Stidham is a good quarterback. He's athletic. He moves. He may not be as good as Bo Nix, especially the run Bo Nix has been on over the last half of the season or so. But even when Bo Nix wasn't playing great, they were still winning games. Defense is really good. Sean Payton obviously knows what he's doing. He's been in this position before in the AFC Championship, or not in the AFC Championship, but in the NFC Championship with the Saints. And he's just been a coach for many years. He knows what he's doing out there. They have a legitimate coaching staff. Benito, Zach Allen, who doesn't get enough credit on that D-line at all. Cortland Sutton's a Pro Bowler. Dobbins may be back for this game. People forget how good he is when he plays. They have a legitimate team, one of the best, if not the best O-line in the NFL. Great running back duo, good receivers. They're in this game. Yeah, it may be a blow that it's not Bo Nix, and he may not be as good as Bo Nix in the most important position in football. But they still have a legitimate shot to win this game. So I think the Patriots do go on and win on Sunday. But I don't think it's been an easy path. And people are saying, oh, it's to continue in the Mickey Mouse ring and this and that. They're going out there and they're playing their ass off. Their defense is making plays and that's the thing that I don't understand with people is when they sit out there and say, oh, well, CJ Stroud's throwing 4 turnovers against them. Well, why the hell do you think it is? It's because their defense is playing great. It's not CJ Stroud going out there and he was missing some throws, but they're putting a ton of pressure on him. They're coming in with these crazy blitzes. The secondary's playing great. Man, what do you think he's throwing 4 interceptions? Because he's under extreme duress. The defense is making plays. He's not just going out there to do it, being like, well, I'm just going to go out there and just screw it. I'm going to throw 4 interceptions. Like, that's what I don't understand is what the hell are you talking about when people say that? That just drives me crazy when I hear that. Speaking of another AFC East team, I think a team that's in some major trouble going forward is the Buffalo Bills. Since the Sean McDermott firing, I seen the press conference with their owners and stuff yesterday, throwing Keon Coleman under the bus. And it is rough in Buffalo right now. And supposedly, Brian Daboll, former offensive coordinator for Josh Allen, when I think Josh Allen was honestly playing some of his best years. I know he won MVP last year under Joe Brady and McDermott, of course, but I think some of his best. Obviously, it was a huge role in developing Josh Allen. I think he was playing some of his best football under Brian Daboll. Supposedly, it's looking like he's going to come back to coach the Buffalo Bills. It's a rumor, but it's a pretty hot rumor right now. And I could definitely see it happening. The list is getting short. Minter, Robert Saleh's been hired. Kubiak, we'll see him here if they go on to lose this week against the Rams, or they win or lose in the Super Bowl just after the Super Bowl to that point. Kubiak's going to be hired by one of these teams. There's still a lot of teams open. It's looking like Jim Schwartz is going to get the Browns job, but we'll see. But I think Daboll in Buffalo makes a lot of sense. Daboll just felt like he didn't really. It wasn't working in New York anymore. New York with Joe Shane and those guys, it's all over the place. I still think New York has issues, even with John Harbaugh, but that's a story for another day. I'm going to talk about that here in the upcoming days. But the way the roster's constructed, seeing that meeting yesterday was really concerning. In front of public eyes, the way he's bashing Keon Coleman and saying out there about, oh, well, we don't really want to pick him anyway, and this and that. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? People forget one thing about Buffalo. Is that before Josh Allen came in and I think, quite frankly, saved this organization, Buffalo was a bottom-of-the-barrel franchise for years. After this Jim Kelly 4 Super Bowl run, and they didn't end up even winning a Super Bowl anyway, but they had some really good years then. They didn't make the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl. They didn't make the playoffs for what? 17 years or something, until Tyler Boyd basically put them in years ago. They had Tyrod Taylor, and they ended up losing like 10-3 against Jacksonville or something in the wild card round. It was a pretty ugly watch. I remember that game. Jacksonville ended up going to the AFC Championship. I'm sure some of you guys probably remember that. 2017 Saxonville. But people forget is that if this roster this year, if it didn't have Josh Allen, let's say it replaced it with, we'll say, and still an athletic quarterback. Let's say Kyler Murray. Let's put him in there. This team's a 5-win team, maybe. 5, maybe I'd say 6 wins at most. The offensive line kind of getting older. They still have good players on the O-line. The receiving core is a mess. They haven't been able to figure that out. That's a disaster right now. Their defense is getting old, really, and they were suffering a lot of injuries at the end of the season because you have older, injury-prone players. It's not like these guys are all of a sudden catching injuries. It's like they've been in Buffalo for a long time, and they've been injury prone for a long time. So it's kind of like, what do you expect? They're not young. Now, all of a sudden, I don't trust the front office there. I never really have. It's kind of really coming to light with Buffalo that, like, if Josh Allen, if he were to not be there, or he ends up going down with an injury or some sort, has to miss 3 to 4 weeks, that team is screwed. And I know that whether it's any team, you end up losing your star quarterback, it's tough. Like Denver this week, it's going to be tough for them to really go in and replace Bo Nix, but I still think there's a chance for them. But when you have someone out there like Josh Allen, who literally puts on the cape and has to play Superman, that's one thing with Sean McDermott. And I've been saying with him for years is, like, it feels like every time they get into the playoffs, every time in big spots, they don't have a plan. It's just like, Josh Allen, just go out there and do whatever you got to do, and hopefully you save us. And that's why it hasn't led to a Super Bowl, because when you get there, you can't get past the hump against going against Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs. Now, in fairness to him and even Lamar and those guys, Brady in all those years with the Patriots dynasty, guys like Manning, guys like Rivers, they could never get over the hump in the AFC against the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's just you get that roadblock. Those guys never stood a chance. And that's kind of what it is for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Like, it's just, unfortunately, you're going against the Chiefs in the Mahomes dynasty. Well, you don't have to deal with it this year. Mahomes went down with an ACL, and even if he didn't, it was looking like, honestly, the Chiefs probably weren't even going to make the playoffs anyway. So I just think if this was the year for Josh Allen and Buffalo to go out and do something, Sean McDermott, he knew, even though he was respected, he was loved in Buffalo, and I still see a lot of the Buffalo fan base, like, they miss Sean McDermott. They really like the guy, even though they felt like maybe it was kind of time to move on. The more I look at it, and the more I even was saying, like, it was time to move on the other day from Sean McDermott, it just felt like the right move, the right thing to do. He was great. He won, 9 playoff games there in Buffalo for a while, which I mentioned before. They didn't make the playoffs for like 17 years before he even got there. So seeing that means a lot, and I think he is a good coach, and I think he's going to coach somewhere else this season, or if it's not this season, next season. There's a lot of jobs open, so I'm sure he will end up getting something, but they're in trouble, and I do not trust this front office of Buffalo to do the right thing. And like I was mentioning with Sean McDermott a couple seconds ago, I don't really know how much of it was on Sean McDermott now. Now, I think against Denver over the weekend, that end of the first half when Josh Allen fumbled, they should have just nailed on the ball. Even Romo and Nance were saying, like, what are they doing? Like, why are you not? This is why you just go in and you kneel on the ball, you end up losing by 3 points, and you end up giving up just a free 3 points at the end of the first half. Will Lutz ends up getting in field goal range off of a Josh Allen fumble. And it's like, realistically, you weren't going to do anything with the football anyway. You had no timeouts, or maybe they had 1 or 2 timeouts or something. I don't really know. I know time was not in their favor. They should have just kneeled on the ball. I forget the exact specifics of it, but they should have just kneeled on it. I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for Sean McDermott, losing the game like that. Allen had a lot of turnovers. Now, I know it's like people blame it on McDermott, Bean, all this, but when's it going to be Josh Allen's turn? I do agree. Josh Allen has had some stinkers. That game against Denver was a terrible game. That was honestly maybe the worst game of his career. It was the worst playoff game in his career. It's not even close. That game was horrible, and especially in a situation where it's like you get to go to New England and you may have a legitimate shot of getting to the Super Bowl. You don't have to deal with Mahomes. You don't have to deal with Baltimore and Lamar, which they've never really had an issue with anyway. They would have a legitimate shot. You go against New England twice a year. You've won against them twice already. You won one of the matchups in New England. You'd have to go to New England. So it's like, you could win the game anyway. Your team have a fire under you, but I don't even know if they'd win anyway, because their roster, the way it's built, they could realistically, and I mean this, they could be in a Chiefs situation from this year where you look and it's like, well, Mahomes, you look at him without Mahomes, the team was the worst team in the NFL. They lost to the Raiders in the last week of the season. They weren't even, were they even still playing Kenny Pickett at that? I don't even know. I know the Chiefs were out there. They benched Loacon, I think. Minshew obviously tore his ACL as well. So they were out there really rolling with nothing. But even with Minshew, I don't even know if they would have ended up winning a game anyway. They were horrible. But you kind of look and it's like, without our quarterback, our team would really suck. And that's kind of what the Chiefs were. Is like, even with Mahomes, they still had a lot of issues. You look in the AFC East, Dolphins are probably going to suck, which is going to come to their favor because it's looking like they're going to dump Tua. They have a new head coach. I think they're going to really just look to get younger, really just reset and wipe it clean there at Miami. The Jets, they can sit there and roll out a bunch of all-pros. I still don't even know if the Jets would be good. But even I mean, they're not even close to doing that, and I just still don't think the Jets are going to be good. They do have a couple of first-round picks. I don't know if they're going to end up trading for anybody or whether they draft a quarterback or trade for a quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do. They still don't even have a QB, so that'll come into the Bills' favor. That'll probably be at least 3 to 4 free wins for them there, but I look and like the Chiefs roster, old. The receiving crew wasn't great. Their D linemen, like Chris Jones, got old fast. Travis Kelce's been getting old over the last couple of years. And it's like, this team isn't very good. Like, even with Mahomes playing good, Mahomes was the MVP favorite for 3 to 4 weeks of the season. Like, Josh Allen kind of go out there and do what he wants, but I think we're going to look and they're going to, if they hold on to some of the same defensive players, which they're kind of cash-strapped to some of them, their offense, they're far from having a good offense, to be honest with you. Again, that's Josh Allen just saving the day. Even if Dayball goes there, I still don't really know. They're limited. This team is just very limited. I think we could look. That's another year. Players get older, more injury prone. They had some serious injuries at the end of the season. Gabe Davis looks like he's going to be out for a while. So I don't really know. They're going to have to slam it in the draft, but they're not drafting high enough to get a premier pick. But you can still nail a low first-round pick and second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. But I think the Bills are in major trouble going forward. Moving on to another sport, basketball, of course. One thing I didn't really get to talk about was the Trae Young trade when it first happened. I was very interested in that, especially because there's no Baltimore basketball team, obviously. DC is really the nearest thing we got. I'm not necessarily a Wizards fan, but I'm very interested in the Wizards. I've loved the Heat growing up. I still like the Heat. I'm not really a fan of really any NBA team. I do root for certain teams, going through the playoffs. I like some teams that are underdog stories, of course. And then some teams, I'm just like, I see the way they play, they're dirty. I feel like if you do not have a team in your city, the basketball team, football team, if you just don't want to have one in your city, it can just kind of make it hard to follow. Even though I live near Baltimore, but I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm a Patriots fan. Have been my whole life, but I don't know. It's just still it's just hard to really get into Wizards basketball, especially when they just sucked so bad for so long. But this Trae Young trade is pretty intriguing. I just kind of wanted to touch on it here. With the NBA trade deadline coming up, a little bit of a tongue twister there. You have Ja Morant, who supposedly now doesn't want to get traded at all. It's been a pretty quiet trade deadline. And when I was seeing the rumors heating up about Trae Young wanting to go to the Wizards, not even just Trae Young, like, oh, well, he might get traded to the Wizards. The Wizards are going to offer a haul to Atlanta for Trae Young. And, Trae Young's looking to get paid. That's why he kind of wanted to get traded. It wasn't working in with the Hawks organization anymore. And I think the Hawks are just all over the place. They have a bunch of players now. Kristaps has been incredibly disappointing this year. Dyson Daniels has kind of fallen down a little bit. They drafted Ricochet a couple of years ago with the first overall pick. And in fairness, that draft would really sucked anyway. That draft gets more disappointing as the days go on. Like, God, you guys remember how good Rob Dillingham was coming out of college? And it was like, this guy's going to be the steal of the draft. I think Minnesota traded up to get him, and he just sucks. I mean, he's struggling to be a rotational piece on Minnesota right now behind other guys like Bones Highland, who has just kind of been a kind of all over the league guy. He's phased himself out of rotational minutes with other teams, kind of just, like I mentioned, phases himself out. And it's like, now all of a sudden Bones Highland has worked his way into the rotation over Rob Dillingham, and Dillingham has sucked. So that's just one guy. Stephon Castle has been good for the Spurs, and Alex Sarr has actually been pretty good to the Wizards, speaking for the Wizards. But the Hawks are just a mess. And I think Trae Young's seen it. He's due for a big-time contract. The Wizards are obviously willing to pay him for it. And when you think, one thing with the Wizards too is like since John Wall, and they had a year, they had a year there for a year or two after John Wall left, where they got Russell Westbrook for a year. He was still playing really good. He may not quite have been prime Russell Westbrook anymore. He was heading out of his prime, but he was still a really good player. They actually ended up making the playoffs with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. And I wouldn't necessarily say they were a good team, but they were a decent team. I think they ended up getting swept, or like they lost like 4-1 to the Sixers or something in the first round of the playoffs back in what was 2021. But that was the last year the Wizards had any sort of relevancy. And even before that, they had the John Wall year where they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, or I think did they get there? Or did they get they got to Game 7 against Boston? And I think Isaiah Thomas dropped like 50-some points against them or something like that. It was just crazy. But they did have a couple of really good years there with John Wall. But since that 2021 year I just mentioned, they have been really, really, really bad. Like, they have been honestly a meme in professional sports, not even just the NBA, but across every sport. I mean, they have just been a laughing stock and a joke. Now, I think they're looking to get a lot more serious. And one of the things with the Wizards is they have an absolute chest of picks. They played it really well, and they don't get a lot of credit for it yet because they haven't shown anything for it. They're still one of the worst teams in the NBA as we speak. But, what they did trading Chris Paul, trading Jordan Poole, trading Bradley Beal, what they got for Beal is just ridiculous. Seeing where he is now, he ain't even playing anymore for the Clippers. He had a season-ending surgery, and he's one of the worst players in the league beforehand anyway. So, and the Suns stint he had ended up moving off of him and trading key players for a lot of second-round picks, first-round picks, moving off of guys, Kristaps Porzingis. It was kind of masterful, to be honest with you. They have really been pulling out great moves. They just don't have anything to show for it yet, but they are in where Oklahoma City was a few years ago. Now, do I trust Washington like I do Oklahoma City? No, because Washington has not been a good developmental team whatsoever. They draft a lot of young talent. Look at Denny Avdia from a few years ago when they drafted him back in 2020. He's one of the best players in the NBA right now for the Portland Trail Blazers. I mean, is he an All-Star this year? I can't remember if he is an All-Star, but if he isn't, he should have been an All-Star. He's averaging the highest averages in his career so far. And you look at his numbers in Washington, he's not even close to the player he has been in Portland. It's ridiculous. And Portland's not even a good organization. They're an okay organization, but it's not like they're miles above the Wizards or anything like that. Like, he just goes there and they just develop players way better. So Washington doesn't develop players quite as well. And that's where I trust OKC is like, well, you look at OKC only won their first championship last year, but they've developed guys incredibly. Like the Russell Westbrook when he got there, Kevin Durant, I know he was drafted as a Supersonic, but he played for Oklahoma City for a majority. I think he only played 1 year on the Supersonics, and then they moved to Oklahoma City. James Harden, even though he really blossomed as a Houston Rocket, but he was still great on the Thunder. He would have never probably been the player he ended up turning out to be just because he couldn't play that play style on the Thunder next to Westbrook and Kevin Durant. But even guys like Steven Adams, guys like, they put good pieces around him, like Serge Ibaka back in the day. They made a finals appearance against the Heat when that was LeBron's first championship win. They've always developed good talent. I mean, they don't necessarily have the rings to show for it except for last year, and they're on pace to have one of the greatest seasons in NBA history this year. The Wizards are potentially there, and I think Trae Young, meanwhile, he knows the Wizards are going to be one of those teams to go out there and pay him a bag. They're going to pay him a lot of money, and he's not. There's a lot of questions whether or not Trae Young will even play this season. He's rehabbing an injury. He can play, but mind you, if the Wizards win too many games, which they're going to win more games with Trae Young in there, and he is an impact player, and he's going to make everyone else around him better because he's been the assist leader now for the last couple of years in the NBA. He's been great, and he's just a shot creator. He's a real difference maker, and they don't want to win too many games because if they get past the 8th overall pick, then I believe it goes to the Knicks. So they do want to keep losing games. And look, I respect it. No matter what, even if Trae Young were to come back tomorrow, they're not going to be able to sneak in the play-in tournament, I believe. They have been getting better. Their young talent has played good. Alex Starr, when he plays next to Trae Young, I mean, truly, I believe they're going to have an amazing pick-and-roll duo. Trae Young is one of, if not the best passers in the NFL. He really is. Obviously, the knock on Trae Young and what kind of let him out of his stint there with the Hawks was they had Dyson Daniels. Jalen Johnson has been breaking out, and they're really good defenders. And obviously, a big flaw with Trae Young is his defense sucks. I mean, he is really one of, if not the worst defender in the NFL. He's a great offensive player all around, shooting threes, getting guys open, making the players around them better, which the Wizards need desperately as a good distributing guard and really helping guys out. And Trae Young's going to be that guy. And I was talking about development with the Wizards earlier. He's going to develop a lot of those players faster and better. So they have a really good piece there. They have a lot of picks here in the draft. I've seen they've been apparently exploring a Zion Williamson trade. I'd stay far away from that. I know he's been healthier this year, and he played a season a couple years ago with like 71 games or something like that. And when Zion's on the court, if you knew you could get 70 games out of Zion and a full playoff stint, do it. I'd say give it up and go get Zion Williamson. He's still 25 years old, and he's out there, and he's a monster on the court. Him and Trae Young together, Jesus, could you imagine, the screen, the lobs they throw to each other? Or not to each Williamson obviously wouldn't throw lobs to Trae Young. That'd be like throwing lobs to me or something, like I ain't gonna catch that shit and dunk it down. But that would be a pretty nasty duo right there. I do like the trade though for the Wizards, and I thought it was interesting. You see guys like the John Morant trade coming up. I don't think it's going to happen. Apparently now he doesn't want out of Memphis, and I thought it was interesting because I thought he was definitely going to go to Miami. And Miami fans, look, I'm sorry you got to hear this again. It's another year of, hey, we're going to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're going to trade for Trae Young. We're going to trade for Damian Lillard. Every single year you see a trade that, the Heat are in this for this premier player. They never do it. And look, maybe I'll eat my own words 20 minutes after I hop off this podcast and I'm done recording, and they go out and trade for John Morant. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting because John Morant bought like a $3 million home in Miami. So I was like, there's no doubt with him. And I don't know if you guys seen the clip of him, of Vince Williams Jr. and them just going back and forth, dude. I mean, I don't even think his teammates like him. So that's where I'm confused of, like, the team doesn't like him. Taylor Jenkins, their coach, just can't fucking stand him at all. They just feud all the time. Apparently they went like a month without even speaking to each other. He's supposed to be the star player of your franchise. And that's why I'm like, there's just no chance this can even be salvaged. Now supposedly he wants to stay in Memphis. So I don't even know what's going on with the John Morant trade. It's going to be a pretty quiet trade deadline. If I was Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's another player. I'd be like, get me the hell out of Milwaukee right now. I can't be here. They're booing Giannis. Giannis was literally crying because they're sitting there booing. The Milwaukee fans are sitting there booing him. Do I think it's disrespectful? Yeah, but at the end of the day, man, your team ain't performing it for shit. Your team sucks. And it may be the way they've developed the roster. You're out there with Kuzma. They have a lot of young talent. Miles Turner, that contract really hasn't worked out how they hoped to be. Him and Giannis were supposed to be a premier shot blocking duo down low, but Miles Turner's just been incredibly inconsistent all over the floor. So that just hasn't worked out quite how they wanted it to be there in Milwaukee. But this Trae Young trade, man, the Wizards, they have a really bright future. And I know you're probably on here thinking, God, there's actually someone talking about the Washington Wizards on a podcast. Yes, there is. That is me. So trust me, I'll go all around here with sports, y'all. So if y'all are interested, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button, man. It'll be well worth it. But getting into the last thing I want to talk about here today before we get out of here, the NFL released its finalists for their awards coming up, like Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, which I'll say is for Defensive Player of the Year. If Myles Garrett doesn't get it, we riot. The other guys that are finalists, Will Anderson, great player. Actually, Daniil Hunter should be up there as well. He had a great season in terms of his sacks. He was one of the sack leaders in the league. He was great. Nick Benito, Hutchinson, and Parsons, all fantastic players. Obviously, Parsons got hurt towards the end of the season for the last 4 weeks or something like that. Didn't play, but yeah, Garrett with a historic season. I know they may not have the wins, but you really got to give it to him. There's no way you don't give the guy who broke the sack record. And if he was on any other team in the league besides the Cleveland Browns and probably the Raiders, would have just a serious impact. He still had an impact regardless. That just goes to show you how bad the Browns are. But they came out with the finalists for all the awards today. And one of the ones that has really intrigued me all year, and especially now seeing the finalists for it, is Offensive Rookie of the Year, because this rookie class has quietly been one of the best rookie classes. They don't necessarily have, serious, or I want to rephrase it. It's not recognized enough because the quarterback play hasn't been very good in there. It's been good. Guys like Jackson Dart, who's a finalist on here, Tyler Shuck, he's been good. Shedeur Sanders was pretty polarizing coming out of the draft, seeing how far he fell in that whole situation. Gabriel, Cam Ward plays for the Titans, and no one is watching the Tennessee Titans unless you do what I do, or you just want to watch every NFL game. You got nothing else to do. So, that's really the only reason why you watch Cam Ward and the Titans, or unless you're a Titans fan, of course. So I thought the Offensive Rookie of the Year was the most interesting one to me. The finalists are Jackson Dart, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, Tedero McMillan, and Tyler Shuck. My favorite two, before I get into my favorite two, I'm going to list off the three that I don't think are going to win it, and that I probably, if I had to vote for a person to win it, I wouldn't vote for. We're going to start off with Emeka Egbuka. He had a great start to the season. It was looking like he was going to have a Puka Nacua historic kind of rookie season, with Baker Mayfield playing like an MVP, besides Evans and Godwin when he came back. Obviously, Evans got hurt his collarbone. Godwin was not really the same player when he ended up coming back anyway, and Egbuka really fell off towards the end, so I don't think he's going to win it, but I think the future is obviously very bright for him there in Tampa Bay, but the longevity just wasn't there for me for Emeka Egbuka. It really fell off towards the end of the season. Travion Henderson just didn't play enough. He was great. And I will say one thing with Travion Henderson is, there's a little bit of fool's gold there with him. He's either breaking off 50-yard runs and outrunning everyone out there on the field. It's like a gazelle running out there on the football field. It's like no one can catch this guy, even if you put whatever. You give them anything. It's like, I don't even know how you catch this guy out there in open space. He didn't play enough at the beginning of the season, and besides the big break-off highlight runs, he got stuffed. I mean, he literally probably wouldn't even. Every time I looked, he would struggle to get a yard, like a 1-2 yard run. So I think there's a little bit of kind of fool's gold there to be played with Travion Henderson and Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck was fantastic for the Saints, and I think they're definitely going to give him the go going forward here next year. I had a great end to the year, man. I mean, they won a lot of games there with him towards the end. I think they won 4 out of their last 5, 3 out of their last 5, something like that. He looked great. Went out there, beat Tampa, crushed their playoff hopes, beat Carolina, who was a playoff team, beat them twice. Tyler Shuck looked great. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think going forward, Tyler Shuck is going to be the guy in New Orleans, but when he didn't play for a majority of the start of the season, and I think that just kind of hinders him. When you look at his stats, compared to Jackson Dart, I'm going to get into here in a minute, just doesn't really compare quite as much. He's a different kind of player. Dart's more of a dual threat. Shuck is just kind of like a CJ Stroudish kind of player, like Stroud in his rookie year, not now. Stroud's a different player right now, but Stroud in his rookie year, back in the pocket, big arm kind of guy. He can run, like Stroud can run, but he's more of a touch passer, kind of throw kind of guy. That's what you want in New Orleans. You're playing in a dome. You play in the NFC. Whenever the Saints get back to the playoffs, you play against teams like LA, Detroit in a dome. Now, you may be unfortunate and have to play against Chicago or Green Bay if you have to go to them. But there is some domes there in the NFC and warm weather teams. So Tampa Bay. So it's good for Tyler Shuck. You have a touch passing quarterback, but just not quite Offensive Rookie of the Year for me. When I think of them, when I think of Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think of a guy who has had legitimate, serious impact in terms of winning games, going out there and doing stuff like, now, Chuck did go out there and have legitimate impact, going out there and winning games, just didn't play the whole season. I have to give credit to guys who played a lot of games during the season. Now, Jackson Dart, you look at him, he had 24 touchdowns to 5 picks on a really sorry Giants team, which when they're healthy, they're a pretty good Giants team. I actually think they have a decent roster, but he was injured. He didn't start off the season, missed a couple of games with injury. Jameis Winston had to step in there, and they just had a lot of meaningless games. And the one guy I'd give it to was Tetairoa McMillan. I think with his impact as a receiver, he was a 1,000-plus yard receiver for the Carolina Panthers this season. He really helped develop Bryce Young, who was already heading towards a positive trend towards the end of last season. I think Tetairoa McMillan should be the offensive rookie of the year. Help them get to the playoffs, because take away Tetairoa McMillan and you look and you go back on some of the games the Panthers won. That game against the Rams, he had a massive fourth down touchdown catch. And Bryce Young threw an absolute dot to him, but he trusts him. McMillan broke off space. He has good hands, big, lanky, tall receiver, big end zone threat. And not only does he help himself, he helps the other guys around him. Xavier Legette was still disappointing around him. We're still waiting for the breakout of him. I don't really know if it's ever going to happen, but I think McMillan, in terms of, he really helped them with that playoff push. Rico Gatto was good there for a little while. Their defense played really well towards the end of the season, but if it wasn't for him and that big playability he brings down the field, there's no chance the Panthers would have 8 wins. And I think Bryce Young would kind of just maybe have another step back. I think he took a real step forward with Ted McMillan, what he did for the guys around him, what he did for the team's success in general. I think he was a big piece for the Carolina Panthers. So I would definitely give it to Ted McMillan. I thought the Offensive Rookie of the Year was just a really interesting award, and seeing some of the guys around it. I think a lot of them are interesting, like Defensive Rookie of the Year as well. Schwesinger's my pick for that. But you guys let me know who you picked for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, I'm going to talk about like all of the awards when it's all said and done. Coach of the Year, of course, is going to be incredibly interesting. It could go to any of the guys listed, and I'll tell you the guys who are listed in that. It is Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Shanahan, and Vrabel. Like, you could literally make an argument for any of those guys to win it. That is the one award to where I look and it's like anyone could win it, and I'm perfectly fine with it. Whether Vrabel wins it, Shanahan, McDonald, Cohen, Johnson, I'm perfectly fine with any of them winning it. Seriously, like the magic Shanahan pulled off there in San Francisco, Liam Cohen boosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a disappointing end for them, but very bright future for the Jags, boosting Trevor Lawrence and to be an MVP finalist. I know, isn't that crazy? Ben Johnson with the Bears, Mike Vrabel, McDonald with the CSO. It's great. All of those guys are great. But you guys let me know who you'd pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and really anybody. Like, if you have a list, make a list for me, MVP, anyone who you'd pick to pick for any of the awards this year. So make sure to let me know, guys. That is it, though, for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I mentioned earlier, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any amount of support to the channel means a lot, and I appreciate you all for watching. And per usual, everybody, take it easy.